It was all necessary, from before the foundation of the world to a hill in Jerusalem, to rescue us from ourselves, from forces we cannot see, and from wounds too deep for words. If you've ever felt like the answers about the cross only scratch the surface, that's because they do. This is where we go deeper, because this isn't just about sin. It's about cosmic rebellion, ancient beings, a fractured world, and a God who chose to believe. This is why Christ had to die. To understand the cross, we need to understand the world that Christ stepped into. Dr. Michael Heiser, in his groundbreaking work, The Unseen Realm, reveals that the world wasn't spiritual and neutral. It was a world under siege, humanity cut off from God, corrupted by sin, and ruled by dark spiritual forces. Heiser explains that the sacrificial system wasn't just random ritual. It was a temporary system of cleansing, allowing Israel to step into God's holy presence. These sacrifices were visual theology, blood for blood, life for life. But even they couldn't fix the core issue, the human heart itself. So by the time Christ steps into history, humanity isn't just sinful, it's also enslaved. Enslaved to powers, to patterns, to wounds passed down through generations. This is where Dr. Joshua Sijuwade's work becomes essential. You see, he explains that this wasn't just about a spiritual war, but it was also about cosmic justice. Sijuwade says that every sin isn't just an action, it's a message. Every betrayal says, I matter more than you. Every act of cruelty says, you are worth less than me. Sin rewrites reality. It leaves behind evidence that the wrongdoer is superior, and the victim is worthless. Sijuwade emphasizes that for God to defeat sin, he can't just forgive and forget. He has to cancel the lie that sin creates. In Divine Justice, Sijuwade explains that punishment isn't just about pain, it's about truth-telling. But if God punished humans directly, it would imply that God and humans are equals too, and that would be a false message. This is why Sijuwade says Christ had to die. Because Christ is fully human, he could stand in our place. Because Christ is fully God, he could bear divine punishment without lowering God's infinite worth. The cross, in Sijuwade's model, is divine truth-telling. It declares, every victim matters, every wrongdoer is accountable, and God's worth remains infinite. But Sijuwade takes it a little further. He explains that Christ didn't just die for us, he also died with us. On the cross, Sijuwade says Christ opened himself to every human mind, past, present, and future. He bore every thought, every shame, every secret horror. He didn't just suffer pain, he suffered every pain. And when he died, those corrupted parts of us died too. The cross wasn't just forgiveness, it was the death of sin's power. We've seen how Christ's death deals with our sin. We've seen how it breaks the power of spiritual forces. But there's still one final enemy that the cross must defeat: horrors. Dr. Marilyn McCord Adams defines horrors as the evils the participation in which, that is, the doing or suffering of which, constitutes prima facie reason to doubt whether the participant's life could, given their inclusion in it, be a great good to him or her on the whole. But McCord Adams says something remarkable. The cross wasn't just about paying for sins. It was God stepping directly into the worst horrors we could possibly experience. In Christ, God became fully human, not just in body, but in vulnerability. He felt fear, betrayal, and agony from the inside. And when Jesus was nailed to that cross, McCord Adams says something shocking. In the crucifixion, God identified with all human beings who participate in actual horrors, not only with the victims, of which he was one, but also with the perpetrators. Why? Because by dying a cursed death, crucifixion, the ultimate sign of rejection by God, Jesus became ritually identified with both those who suffered horrors and those who perpetrate them. Deuteronomy 21:23 says, "You are not to leave his body on the tree overnight. Be sure to bury him that day, for anyone who is hung from a tree is under God's curse. You must not desecrate the land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance." Galatians 3:13 says, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, "Cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree." The cross, in McCord Adams' words, cancels the curse, transforms even the darkest moments of places where God meets us intimately. McCord Adams even says that one day in heaven, when the redeemed look back on their worst moments, their horrors, they won't wish them away, because those moments, as painful as they were, became the very places where God himself stood beside them. The scars remain, but now they tell a different story. They are no longer symbols of defeat, but signs of a God who refused to remain untouched by our suffering, a God who chose to bleed with us. This is the story of a God who bleeds, not to crush us, but to save us. The only question left is this: will you let him? If you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe and hit that bell to get more notifications on when I release another video. And in the meantime, God bless.